welcome.
Yes, the country in Africa that impressed me the most with its progressiveness was Ghana. And Ghana, it's not an accident that Ghana is the country in Africa that the white man here in the West seems to be the most worried about. It's actually the most progressive. The attitude when you arrive in Ghana, you can see, is an attitude of confidence among the Ghanaians. And while I was there, I had an opportunity to speak at the University of Accra in Legon, outside of Ghana, and also at the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute in Winneba, which is a little farther away from Accra. Also, I had a chance to speak before the Ghanaian members of Parliament, and also to President Nkrumah himself. And in each of these occasions, most of my time was spent describing the true plight of the black people in this country and the hypocrisy of the American government in dealing with the problem, and the inability of the American government to really and truly deal with this problem. And while I was in Ghana, since Ghana is actually the one country in Africa where you have where everyone is headquartered, and I had an opportunity, I believe, to speak to around 15 different ambassadors from different countries, and on nothing but the race problem in this country and why these countries have been so silent on it at the governmental level, while at the same time they're so vocal on the situation that exists in South Africa and Angola. The defense minister of Ghana, Kofi Bako, gave a dinner in my honor, at which I had an opportunity to meet most of the African, the very prominent and influential African leaders. And I might add, to show you what a down-to-earth this particular man is, he's the counterpart of in his country, of McNamara in this country. And in the car that I was leaving his home in stalled, and this man is so down-to-earth, he got out and pushed it. He was pushing our car to try and help us get it started. And I very much doubt that you find very many people in other countries of his particular position who would do the same thing. Yet at the same time, you hear all of this propaganda in America about the type of government that the Ghanaians have over them. When you go there, you find that all of them make you relax. They're down-to-earth persons. They're not what you call a dictator. They don't throw their weight around. But at the same time that they don't throw their weight around, they let you know that they're confident in their ability to guide their country in the right direction, and in a direction that is of most benefit to the Ghanaian people. I was given also dinners. There were dinners given in my honor also by the Nigerian ambassador, the Chinese ambassador, the Cuban ambassador, and the Algerian ambassador. And one thing I noticed about the Chinese ambassador, and I don't mean Chiang Kai-shek's man, this is the man who represents 800 million Chinese. I had tea at his home with his wife and his family, and later, the next day, he gave a dinner in my honor at the Chinese embassy, to which other ambassadors were invited. And one of the things that impressed me about this man was he had a working knowledge of practically everything involving race affairs in this country. He could tell me the leader of the struggle in Danville, Virginia, whose name I don't know. He could tell me the names of Negro leaders at the local level across the country. They were right at his fingertips, which shows he was studying the race problem in this country closer than many of the Negro leaders in this country have studied it. And the man impressed me with his knowledge and his sincerity, and he didn't fail to remind me that his head of state, Mao Zedong, was one of the first, if not the only, head of state who outright openly, in a language not cloaked in diplomacy, through his weight and the weight of 800 million Chinese behind the black people in this country in our struggle for freedom. But at the time that he did it, he was rebuked by the so-called Negro so-called leaders. So I took the opportunity to point out to the ambassador that he just sent his letter of moral support to the wrong leader, because there are other black people in this country who are not so dumb that they don't realize the old African saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And when the Negro leadership in this country realizes that, they'll be able to devise more tactics and wiser strategy in dealing with an enemy, because we are up against a very brutal enemy. Anyone who deprives you of your rights is an enemy. And I might also point out, and I cite these things just to show the concern and the interest on the part of our people abroad. The morning that I left Accra for Senegal and for Morocco, there were 5 of these African ambassadors came to the airport with me to see me off. And it was an act actually to show that not only they, but their governments and their people were interested in the Afro-American struggle for freedom. And one of the things that I was trying to impress upon them while I was there was our effort this year. We knew that in the past, and they pointed this out, that in the past they couldn't intervene. They couldn't in any way show too much support in our struggle because the Afro-American leaders had made the mistake of labeling our struggle a civil rights struggle. And as long as it was labeled a civil rights struggle, it was a domestic issue which came under the jurisdiction of the United States government, and no outside power could intervene. So we impressed upon them, I tried to impress upon them that the Afro-American leaders, the various groups this year, were going to get together and take the label, civil rights label, off our struggle and shift it to the level of human rights. And once it is at the level of human rights, instead of it being a domestic or national issue, it becomes an international issue. And it puts us in a position to take the United States government into the United Nations or into world court and charge Uncle Sam with being guilty of violating our human rights, which means he's violating the UN Charter. He's violating the UN Covenant on human rights. He's violating the Declaration of Human Rights. And all of them agree that once our problem is shifted to the level of human rights instead of civil rights, then immediately it leaves the floodgates open for every other country on this earth to open up their mouths at the governmental level and give whatever assistance they can to the struggle of the black people in this country for human rights, human recognition, and human dignity. So I left Africa feeling well satisfied that the day the black people in this country are able to identify, or the day that we are able to realize that we have brothers abroad in Africa, Asia, and in Latin America, it'll bring a new direction to the struggle of the black people in this country. And one of the other things that were pointed out to me, there's been much talk about migration back to Africa, physical migration back to Africa. After traveling through Africa and discussing that particular phase of the problem with many African diplomats and statesmen, I came away with the conclusion that they would be happy to welcome our people back. But at the same time, many of them suggested that it would be wiser for our people to work, since our people have made the contribution in this particular country that has made this country what it is. We have a stake in it. We have something coming here. And it would be wiser for us to force this country to live up to what it professes to represent in its constitution and in its so-called beautiful declarations of independence and other things. And those who want to migrate back, well and good. Those who want to stay here, well and good. But the migration back to Africa should be, if you notice, the Jews in this country have stayed in this country physically, but their migration back to Israel has been a philosophical migration, a cultural migration, a psychological migration, meaning that they have linked hands spiritually with Israel while remaining here physically. But this spiritual link with Israel has given them the prestige and the incentive that has enabled them to enhance their position here politically, economically, socially, and otherwise. And those who are here help the Jews who are in Israel, and those who are in Israel help the Jews who are here. When our people begin to look at this thing as it is and realize that there are probably that Afro-Americans aren't only in the United States, because Latin America is America, South America is America. Brazil has two-thirds of the population of the people in Brazil are people of African descent, which means they are Afro-Americans. Venezuela the same way, Honduras, Cuba, all through the Caribbean and in Canada.